My name is William E. Jones, and I am a filmmaker. I'm also a visual artist, and most recently, I've been a writer. I started out writing nonfiction, and now I'm writing fiction. My first novel is I'm Open to Anything, which I think some people will know. Well, something I noticed with the first book is that it had a very direct connection to the audience. And I don't think that doing something in an alienated way through a big publisher is a good idea for the kind of writing I do. I like being close to my readership, and I also like being responsive to them. And this is a way of publishing in a new manner that's not full of middlemen and intermediaries. It's a very direct way of doing things. So when I first published I'm Open to Anything, I had no idea what to expect. It is on an independent press. We Heard You Like Books. And I was not sure if the book had legs, as they say. But as it's turned out, the book, 18 months after it was released, is actually selling more copies now than it was selling when it was first published. And that indicates to me that there's significant word of mouth that's propelling the success of this book. Um, the book was not in most bookstores because of its cover. The cover is a photograph that I took when I was 19 of a sculpture by Takis, and it's of Saint Sebastian. Saint Sebastian is gold in the photograph, and so it's clear that he's a work of art. He has no head, and arrows are about to pierce him. But he also has an enormous erection. And this cover image really was difficult. It was, curiously enough, accepted on social media, but independent bookstores really shunned it, which is something I didn't anticipate. And because of this, the success of the book is particularly surprising. It was sold in an unconventional way and in a way that we didn't expect, but it actually did sell, and it got considerable traction among its devoted readership. Once again, it has to do with the readership. After reading the first book, quite a few people asked me, what happens next? What does the narrator do next? And I hadn't really thought I would write a sequel. I thought that I would perhaps just write one novel and be done with it and never really write any more fiction again. Because I've written much more nonfiction than fiction. I thought, well, I'll just go back to writing biographies. But people really seem to want to know more and hear more of the story, or I should say, read more of the story. And that motivated me to write another installment in the saga. The new book is much more ambitious than the first. The first was a very simple story. It was essentially the narrator versus the world, and the narrator's impressions of various things he experienced. The second book, he goes to art school and he meets friends and he becomes involved in a social context. And as a result, it's a much more complex and more ambitious novel. It's one where various characters exert their will upon the narrator, and he changes because of it. So for me, it was a really interesting challenge as a book, and I hope that readers will enjoy this more ambitious and more complex book, which is longer than the first and takes on a different range of subjects. It's not strictly a porno novel as the first novel was. It's more about the dying gasp of Bohemia in Los Angeles at the end of the 20th century.